Our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. And we'll talk about the new single, Broken But Beloved, and what you have going on currently.
I thought it was your therapy session.
Or that.
I was all prepared. Yeah.
Well, so tell me about your problems.
No, no, no. It's me. I'm your therapist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's my problems, not yours. Got you.
Totally, totally.
Right on. Well, tell me about where you were born and raised.
Born and raised in Los Angeles.
Okay.
One of the few, right?
Sure.
That stayed there. I lived there my entire life until about 6 months ago when I moved up here to Big Sur. Uh,
But it's still California.
Still California, but completely different from Los Angeles.
Sure. I grew up in Southern California, and then I lived in San Francisco, well, the Bay Area, for about 5 years as well. So
It's
kind of
different,
familiar with the difference.
huh?
That's
So are,
cool.
are you in SoCal now?
No, actually, my family and I just moved to Nashville about less than a month ago. If that's why you can see all this stuff in my room currently.
Yeah,
It's pretty
exactly.
packed in here. Yeah, so we like recently just moved out of California.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was born and raised in LA, grew up around the entertainment industry.
Were your
So,
parents involved in that?
my dad was a lawyer. He represented a lot of entertainers.
Oh, cool.
But I just grew up around it. And so it was very natural for me not to suppress my innate desire to entertain because there was always
Sure.
opportunities,
Yeah, encouraged instead of discouraged.
Exactly. I mean, I think way back when my parents would have liked it had I grown up to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Sure.
As in, a lot of
Every
my family
parent's
went in that
dream.
direction. But, it was useless. It was in my blood, but my parents would say it skipped a generation
Okay.
because my grandmother on my dad's side was a music teacher.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and my grandmother on my mom's side was a dancer in vaudeville. So
Wow.
it was around.
Okay.
Um,
Were they around when you were around? Because sometimes you don't,
Yes.
kids don't get
Well,
a
as a
chance
kid,
to.
yes. Well, my grandmother lived in Michigan,
Okay.
but she would come out a lot and play piano, and I would sing. And she introduced me to a love of instruments and music. And my grandmother definitely encouraged me, in theater and dance and all that stuff. So
Okay. Did you learn piano as well at a young age?
I did. I started taking piano lessons when I was in first grade, but I
Okay.
got
Wow.
fired. I got fired from my teacher.
You got fired from a
Yes.
piano? Were
Yeah.
you not
I mean,
reading the
how did that
music?
happen?
Yeah, I
Um,
want to hear the story.
okay. Well, we were doing classical music, and I liked to improvise. I played by ear, and I thought,
Okay.
oh, wouldn't it be great if it went like this? You know? And she was
Sure.
one of those ones with the ruler, and she would like tap
Whack
my
your
fingers.
hand.
No, no, no.
Oh
So
my.
I didn't dig that,
Uh,
and I wasn't very good at practicing.
Okay.
I really just wanted to play what I heard in my head. So
Sure.
my mom found another teacher who let me play pop music and songs that I'd been hearing on the radio. But again, I'd start by reading the music, but then I just kind of went off on my own.
Okay. So more of a
So
songwriter than
exactly.
somebody that covers music, so to speak.
And I've always been that way. So people will say, "Oh, can you play this song by so and so?" And I'm like, I really would have to sit down and learn it.
Right.
I really only know my own stuff.
Uh-huh. I've
Um,
actually talked to a lot of artists like that, and I've heard stories from artists that they went that route just because they didn't want to start learning a certain I'm only going to play this way because that's who I really admire and I learned all their songs, for example. Like at least that way you're kind of, creating your own sound at a very, very early start.
yes, and as a matter of fact, like I am not a technical player.
Okay.
But I had somebody who is a technical player say to me, "No, Cindy, you need to play on this recording because I can't play like you. I don't know what you're doing." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing either. I'm just moving my hands. And if I had to teach somebody to do what I do, I couldn't do that."
Okay.
You know?
Sure, sure. Or you'll talk to people that play guitar like all weird. Like, oh, I just You know, where'd you get that chord? I don't know. I did this with my
I
fingers and it
yeah,
kind
I
of
moved
happened.
exactly. So sometimes like and I am in no way, an educated guitar player. But
Sure.
I learned guitar again by ear because at the time I didn't have a keyboard, and when I first started touring, like to lug around a piano was not a possibility. So I'm like, I better learn how to play my chords, just the chords,
Uh-huh.
that's all I. On
Yeah.
guitar. And then I
Okay.
learned about capos. I'm like, okay, I can know these like six chords, and I can take a capo and I can play all my songs.
Right.
You
Oh,
know?
there you go. So
Yeah.
you wrote a bunch of songs on piano first, and then you had to kind of translate it because you didn't.
Well, I wrote on piano first, but
Okay.
then once I picked up a guitar, um, I think I write half and half now.
Oh,
But
sure. Okay.
but the other thing that'll happen is that I might start on guitar,
Uh-huh.
and then I'll have my lyrics and my melody, and then I'll move to the piano if I need more of a vocabulary. But sometimes it's better to work within a smaller vocabulary. It all depends. I mean, I write lyrics and melody together. So if my
Okay.
voice goes up, if I were to say something to you, my melody is going to go up.
Got it.
That kind
Okay.
of thing. So the chords I can embellish or change, or for whatever mood I want, add sevenths, change the bass note, all this stuff after the fact. But the
Got it.
core of writing for me is lyric and melody.
Okay. And were you always writing lyrics, like poems at an early
I
age?
I was, but I didn't realize that I was a songwriter.
Okay.
I was just making up stuff. And like I remember like the first thing that I made up and then performed, I think I was in high school.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like
Okay.
for a graduation ceremony. And someone's like, "Oh my God, you're a songwriter?" I'm like, "Oh no, no, no. I just like make stuff up." I make
I
like no,
just
no,
make
no.
up songs.
No, you're a songwriter. So, yeah, I was doing theater. I was acting and doing theater, and then I realized, I think after I graduated from college,
Uh-huh.
that it was a lot easier just to write my own show, write my life. I could play myself better than I could play anyone else.
Mhm.
And there's no competition for the part of myself.
Sure,
Only I
yeah,
can be me. So,
right, right. I like that. Well,
yeah.
when you started, so you started it kind of clicked as a songwriter when you were in high school. You said your senior year?
Um, okay, it didn't no. Well, I started like my first song I think I wrote my senior year in high school.
Okay.
But when I was in college, I went to USC. I was in the theater program there. There was a woman named Michelle Browerman, and she
Mhm.
was the accompanist for the vocal classes at USC. And she wrote some amazing songs for some pretty famous like cabaret type acts. Like
Okay.
um, I'm trying to think of their names right now. And of course, I mean, I am my children have like sucked my brains out of me lately,
I
and I
get it.
cannot
I've
focus.
got kids too.
Yeah, I have twins.
Oh
Um,
my.
okay, well, I know
Well.
she wrote a lot of stuff with Amanda McBroom. Amanda McBroom who wrote The Rose.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And she wrote a song called "My Favorite Year" with Karen Gottlieb, that was like a big cabaret hit.
Mhm.
Anyway, she was a songwriter, and I don't even remember how it started, but I was working on something with her, and I think I told her that I made stuff up.
Sure.
And she listened to it and she started like teaching me how to write a song. Like, this is a hook. This is your
Oh.
A section, this is your B section, this is a bridge. You can do this.
Mhm.
And she really encouraged me in college, and it was just kind of a little hobby thing that I did on the side until I started doing demos for other people. Um,
Oh, you'd be like the
like
vocal
I did the
piece
yes,
or yeah, okay.
exactly. I did vocals for other people's songs. And just for fun, because Michelle was helping me get this kind of work, she's like, let's do one of your songs on here. So I
Wow.
did it. And then somebody heard it and they're like, hey, you're the songwriter. That's great. So I was
Yeah.
encouraged, like, keep doing that, keep doing that. And I fell in love with it. Like all of my training, as a, stage performer, um, just movement,
Mhm.
vocals, everything. It all just, it's like, it was this big aha moment for me. Like, this is what I do, and this feels really good and really right. And
Uh-huh.
I never stopped.
And did you carry that through USC? You said USC?
Well, it really wasn't until after SC I
Okay.
started um that I started, becoming a singer-songwriter. I was trained, I thought I was going to go do Broadway, you know.
Right, right, because you're in
Uh
for musical theater.
yeah, yeah. But then I'm like, nope, nope, this is it. This is what I do.
So once that song that was, your own thing on this demo kind of got around, what
Mhm.
what would happen next? Is this around the time that you put out a record called See Red, which
Okay, no, it was
wins an
before.
album, album of the year at the
Yeah,
LA
okay.
Music
So,
Awards, which
yeah,
is
it was
like the
before.
pinnacle of city, I'm sure, music awards. We had ones in
Um
San Diego, which were total bogus. Not sorry to go on a tangent here, but it would be like San Diego Music Award for Album of the Year goes to Blink 182. And it's like, they're not going to show up here. You're not going to, it's like you're giving an award to a band that's, so much further ahead of everybody else, of these local bands. But anyway, sorry. But you won
no,
Album of the Year in Los Angeles, which is huge.
it's okay, well, let me tell you how we got to that
Yeah,
point. All
let's get
right.
there. Sorry.
Let's
Sorry to
get
skip
there.
ahead.
Okay, I start writing these songs, and I'm starting to play around town in Los Angeles, like at places like Genghis Cohen,
Okay, sure.
um, and in like my second show ever was at the Troubadour.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was amazing, and because I had been born and raised in LA, and my family and my friends, I had a great, broad network of people that would come to my shows because I had been doing theater. So I already
Okay.
kind of had a fan base. So they came, and it was very successful for me. Like, my live shows and my scene grew and grew, and there were parties after, and it was a social scene as well as
Wow.
being music and entertainment, and I would bring in my friends' bands and put together these bills where we would do cross promotion and stuff. So I really built up something in the LA music scene, and then because I had done so well at the Troubadour,
Uh-huh.
this is how I'm getting to the 1999 CD.
Okay, sure.
In 1998, I was asked to open for the Bacon Brothers. That's Kevin Bacon and Michael Bacon's band.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So,
rad.
so that was amazing. And I hit it off with those guys.
Oh,
I
wow.
just loved them and had so much fun that night. And I was invited to go on tour with them. Well,
Wow.
I didn't have a CD yet. So this is how
Okay.
I get to see Red. I was like, oh gosh, I got a couple months to get something to sell on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took all the demos that I had been making with, I call him my musical soulmate, Paul Trudeau. And
Okay.
Paul Trudeau lived in the apartment above me. And I met him because he was playing his music so loud. And I had a migraine, and I had to go upstairs and tell him to turn it down.
Oh man. I
And
thought it was
after
gonna be
that,
the other way around. Like he comes downstairs and he's like, "You're really good."
no, it wasn't that. I was like, this is horrible. I have a headache. Can you please stop? Um, but we became friends. We started writing together, and we had all these songs. And
Mhm.
he had been working with a producer named David Darling, and Dave Darling had been working with. He was in a band called Boxing Gandhis, which was really big in the '90s. Like, they
Okay.
won like Billboard Music Awards and all that stuff.
Wow.
And he was also working with Meredith Brooks at the time, who was doing great.
Hmm.
And so since Paul was working with Meredith Brooks as well, Paul says, look, let me take these demos and let's bring them over to Dave Darling, and maybe he can remix them, and we'll write a couple more and we'll have a CD. So that's what we did. And Dave was my very first like producer,
Hmm.
and I worked with him many times over my career. We still write together to this day, and
Amazing.
yeah. So that was C Red. C Red was basically my demos, like spiffed up,
Sure.
and we went on tour, and it was right at the beginning of Amazon.com, and
Oh.
and selling music, and also it was mp3.com and Napster and MySpace,
Oh
the
yeah.
digital, right? It was like a digital revolution.
Yeah, I had friends that worked at mp3.com and
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Yahoo and all that fun
yes, and the
stuff. That's
Yahoo groups were popping up, and I had my
uh-huh.
first fan club, my first Yahoo group, which was the Peanut Gallery. And today, my nickname is Peanut,
Oh,
P-N-U-T. I'm 5'2", I'm really tiny, and everyone gets shocked. They hear my voice and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were so little." So anyway, so I was working all this and I wasn't fighting people stealing and bootlegging my music here and there because it was just giving me a broader audience. And here I
sure.
was touring, and Amazon had this feature, and they still do today. People who bought blah, blah, blah also
Oh,
bought blah,
also
blah, blah.
like, sure,
Right.
sure.
So I ended up being people who bought Chantal Crevaille-Zook, who had one of the number one CDs on Amazon at the time, bought Cindy Alexander. People who buy Sarah McLachlan by Cindy Alexander. People who buy
Uh,
Jewel by Cindy Alexander. So all of a sudden, I'm showing up in Amazon, and I have
like
a
in this algorithm now.
yes, and I have this great selling CD. So
Wow.
and I was getting a lot of shares on Napster. And what I would do is I would go online and I'd get on Napster and I would go, "Hey, so how'd you get that song Sick of Myself?" which was on C Red. And they're like, "Oh, I heard it on MySpace and here it is on Napster. Do you want it?" I'm like, "Oh, I have
Yeah.
it. I have it. I'm Cindy Alexander."
I wrote the song.
Yeah. And they're like, "You're not Cindy Alexander. She wouldn't have dial up." I'm like, "Oh, no." you know?
Right, right.
So I was touring, I was touring with the Bacon Brothers across the US, and I was touring virtually through the internet. And basically,
Uh-huh.
that's what started my career, what helped me. LA Music Awards, took notice of me because I was outperforming. I had a great audience, and
Hmm.
Al Bowman, who was running it at the time, just, um, fell in love with the music, and those accolades are great, and they help. But I just want to say there are so many amazingly talented, musicians in Los Angeles. And
Hmm.
while I appreciate it, I know that, I'm lucky, and I was in the right place at the right time when those people saw me, and but it
But you
helped.
have to have the skill and the talent. It's like right place at the right time, but you also have to be able to,
You have to be
perform.
prepared, right?
Right. Yeah. If you're not prepared, if you're not ready for it, like the biggest record executive ever could come to your show at the Troubadour, but if you totally screwed it up, they're not like, okay, well, there was your chance. I'm not,
Exactly.
you have to be ready. And
And I
obviously you
also
proved
think,
yourself.
and you have to be ready emotionally too. Like I actually did get offers after that whole first hurrah out there. But
Uh-huh.
it was also, I also had some like really, major stuff going on with my family. And I kind of met all the wrong people at the beginning of my career, like as far as like industry types.
Sure.
I met the people that used their power and position, to
To
try to
like take
take
advantage of
advantage.
you.
Yeah, to try to take advantage of young artists. And I um I was locked in a sauna by
Mhm.
a music executive who said, come with me. This is the best stereo system where we can listen to your music. So there was a lot of things that happened,
Mhm.
that kind of made me step back. So my career has, it's been like this. I
Okay.
had to step back for a long time,
Uh-huh.
and then restart and step
Sure.
back and restart and redefine what success is and what I was willing to do and not do.
Okay.
While I and I did, and it was tough. You watch people doing what you won't do, and
Uh-huh.
you see what happens. So I just I'm really open about these things because I mean, I have two daughters,
Uh-huh.
and I want them to know that, some of these stories that you hear and these Me Too stories, they're real, and I have
Right.
a mom, and
Wow.
yeah. So there's a song. The reason why I brought that up because there's a song that just came out yesterday on YouTube. We've been releasing singles up until April 23rd when
Mhm.
my new record, While the Angels Sigh, comes out. So
My
there's a song
son's
that
fifth birthday, by the way.
All right. Well, happy birthday. What is his name?
Sebastian.
Happy. Oh, okay. So that's going to be a very special day, and I will remember that. Um, yeah. So Power of You is about that story I was just telling you about,
Wow.
and there's a bunch of videos on YouTube right now, and that's one of them.
That's amazing. I mean, was it kind of like freeing to write the song and get it out, like get it out there?
It's always freeing. I mean, I take a lot of the pain that I've gone through in life,
Uh-huh.
and I channel it into music, and it's very healing. It's great to let go of it, through music. And a lot of times, songs, they might mean something to me that's
Right.
so emotional and so poignant, and I put it out there, but then it means something different to somebody else, and
Hmm.
it becomes a turning point for them. And in that way, we're taking our own healing and putting it out there, and hopefully it can do the same for somebody else someday.
I love that. And I mean, not only that, I mean, you talked about going through a lot. I mean, you had breast cancer at one point.
Yeah,
I mean, you
I
had
did.
breast cancer, and
I did.
to be being an advocate for that is so huge and so, empowering for young women and women that have had it. I mean, my grandmother on my dad's mom died of breast cancer when I was like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And I can
Hmm.
still remember, like, I don't really have memories of her, like, other than photos of me like with her,
Yeah.
but I can still remember to this day what the getting my, they were in Cleveland and we were in San Diego. My dad was already there because I kind of knew stuff was happening. And I can still remember like my mom answering the phone at like 3 or 4 in the morning and getting up and hearing it and then being in our living room, when we got the news that she had passed away. And I can have a vivid memory of that. And I don't have very many memories of when I was that young, but that's one that is always kind of stuck in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're making me tear up a little bit on
oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
No, just those are things like those phone calls, and in those moments, they're indelible, and I mean, I remember distinctly the phone call of my doctor saying you have cancer.
Yeah,
And
I can't even
I I wasn't
fathom
it's
that.
not like I was surprised, like my mom had breast cancer, my dad had breast cancer.
Oh,
Um
wow.
so I'm like going to tell you right now, Adam, that you have it's if it's on your dad's side of the family, it still can get passed down, and men get
Do
it.
get
They
yeah, it's
just
just
don't
not as
talk about it.
mhm.
And it's been on the rise for the last 10 years. And every time I tell women, you know your body, you've lived in it your whole life. Don't let anybody else tell you, that something's not wrong. If something doesn't feel right to you, you go get it checked out. And men too, you guys should be feeling yourselves up. You feel
Yeah.
something's wrong, you go get it checked out. And you should also tell, your doctors, your primary care, that you have, breast cancer in your family. Because
Yeah.
the thing is that, you know, th- there's a small percentage of all the cases of breast cancer that are genetic.
Uh-huh.
However, when it is genetic, you have like an 85% chance of developing it over your lifetime.
Oh my goodness.
And the reason why it's gotten so high is because there's so much in our environment that affects our hormones, the things we put on our body, the things we eat, what we breathe.
Mhm.
And your breasts have hormone receptors, and they start to hoard it. And when you're putting these things on, in, around your body, if you have any predisposition, to cancer,
It
it
yeah.
becomes more likely. So we just have to be aware and just listen to your body.
Is it just real quick on that note, is it more common if you're on the father side of the family, if it's there, or does it not matter either way?
It doesn't matter either way, but there's a
Okay.
certain gene that's more predominant that gets handed down from the father's side.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, because I have a sister, but she's 11 years younger than me. So that's
She needs to
good to
watch it.
know.
The other thing is
Yeah.
genetic breast cancer tends to skip, and come 10 years earlier, 5 to 10 years earlier, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. But obviously, I mean, they're were able to catch it, I mean, early
Yes.
enough
Well, it was
and
early enough because I pushed it. So
oh.
there's this. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll be really open with you about this stuff. I don't know.
I
You know,
appreciate it.
there's
No, this
any
is
TMI on this
there's no
podcast.
TMI. This is all about you and your journey in music. It's open. It's an open forum for you to say whatever you want,
Okay,
really.
and it's also your therapy session, Adam. So
It
if you
is. I
ever
forgot
need,
about that. We
yeah, if you
discussed this
ever
in the
need to,
beginning.
if you ever have to express yourself during this, please feel free. Um, so I had gone to the gynecologist where they always, they check women's boobs.
Sure.
And he's like, do you know that you're a little asymmetrical? Like there's a lump on one side but not on the other. And I'm like, yeah, it comes and goes, when I during the month.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
I noticed it, but I said, but I can move it around. And usually when you can move something around, it's cystic, it's not a tumor. And he's like,
Got it.
yeah, he's like, but it's asymmetrical. And whenever there's asymmetry, you should get it checked out. So I want you to go see a breast specialist, considering your family's history. I'm like, of course. So I get sent to a specialist and she does an ultrasound and she says, it is asymmetrical, but I don't see anything in there. Nothing's showing up on the ultrasound. So why don't we wait? I'm like, I don't want to wait.
Right. That
Um,
doesn't sound like the best
right.
plan.
She goes,
Like,
well, let's get you an MRI.
uh-huh.
So I got an MRI and it came back questionable. Like, why don't we wait and come back in 6 months and check this again? I'm like, no, I am not going to wait.
Right.
And I got a second reading of the MRI from another doctor. And
Mhm.
that doctor said, oh no, this needs to be biopsied. And
Mhm.
this is I forget the term. You get this thing, it's at the bottom of your report, it says BIRADS, and you get a number.
Sure.
And the higher the number is, the more likely it is that it's breast cancer. My number was high.
Oh.
So I go back to the breast specialist and I'm like, I need a biopsy. And she's like, well, I can't find anything on the ultrasound, so I can't biopsy it. So I did my research and I found a doctor who could biopsy me while I was in the MRI machine.
Interesting.
Yes. And it was coming up on the 4th of July weekend. And I did not want to wait.
Uh-huh.
So I totally went rogue. I called this doctor. And when it says, like, press 1 if you're a new patient, press 2,
Right,
press
right.
3 if you're a doctor. I just pressed 3.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew someone would pick up the phone. And
Yeah, right.
I'm in tears. I get the doctor's assistant. I'm like, look, my mom had breast cancer. My dad had breast cancer. I have an MRI that lit up. They can't find it on the in the ultrasound, but I know
Ultrasound.
that this doctor can biopsy me in an MRI. Can you please, 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 please get me in? The person felt sorry for me, got me an appointment.
Amazing.
I went in right before, I think, July 3rd, and I didn't get the results until after the holiday weekend. And then one extra day. And when that one extra day happened, I knew what the phone call was going to be, because if they find something, they send it out
Uh-huh.
to do more pathology reports and find out what kind of cancer it is. Is it estrogen receptor positive? Is it triple negative? All these things that,
Mhm.
I'm probably boring you with that kind of a
No,
detail.
no, it's interesting.
But considering that I had already become an advocate in that world, I knew the medical terminology. I knew
Uh-huh.
what happened. I was already, volunteering at We Spark, which was a cancer wellness center. I was, in different like cancer coalitions and stuff for, to support,
Yeah, both
parents and
your
to be
parents, right?
knowledgeable,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So I knew this stuff. Like I knew what was going on. So as I said, when I got that call, I knew what it was going to be.
Oh my gosh.
And I had a very aggressive cancer. However, at the time they caught it, it was still in the ducts.
Okay.
And which is like the best time to catch it before it breaks out. What happens is it grows and grows and grows, and then those ducts can burst and the cancer spreads and
Spreads throughout
can
the
become
body, right?
metastatic. So I caught it at the earliest possible stage, but it was very fast growing.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't know like how much time I had before it was going to be, something called DCIS,
Mm-hmm.
ductal carcinoma in situ, or breakout. So I used the rogue thing that I did the first time to like get myself into the best surgeon and, get that on the books. And I
That's
did.
You have to. You have to fight for it. I mean, these things. I mean, going off on something not as serious than that note, but I've had 3 surgeries on my neck within the past year and a half.
Why? What's
And
going on?
I've had 2 discectomies. Actually, at 3 o'clock today, I get another MRI. Speaking of which, they
Oh
had to
my
do
goodness.
like they did one level that failed. So they had to do a double level fusion, which didn't really work. So they came through the back, did a
Laminectomy.
laminectomy on my
Hmm.
C6, C7 vertebrae, and then that's still messed up. So it's just been this whole thing. But once I had the first surgery done and it wasn't fusing, I knew something was wrong because I could start
Hmm.
feeling it. And I had a cord compression where the disc hit my spinal cord.
Hmm.
And my wife is like, we went to the ER, they contacted the surgeon, and he's just kind of like, well, I have a dime in 2 weeks or whatever on the books. Like, I can't wait that long. I can't
Yeah.
even move. So my wife's like, you need to go to the at the time UCSD in San Diego, like go there. And they like admitted me into the hospital like that day and kind of got the ball rolling for me.
Right.
But if I wouldn't have got the second opinion, I would have been sitting. I mean, who knows what kind of nerve damage it could have done at that point.
Exactly. We are our own best advocates. And you have,
Mhm.
so what did you do? Were you like a wrestler? How did you hurt your neck?
No, I don't know. We don't know. Honestly, it's like still they don't know if it's genetic because now it's interesting because my mom is getting similar symptoms to what I had, but she's in her 60s.
It's like degenerative disc or something?
Yeah, it's like the spacing between my vertebrae is really narrow and like I guess the bone that surrounds your spinal cord, mine is like super narrow. So if anything were to like it basically there's no wiggle room there. It's
Right.
like if something minuscule happens with on somebody that might be like, oh, I have a pinched nerve. Mine's like, oh, it's compressing the whole spinal cord.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been a whole thing. But I still can't lift my left arm all the way up. Like I can do this with this arm, but this arm I can't go over here. Just because like
Hmm.
they think it's something to do with you have 2 nerves that kind of come out of your spine. I'm probably boring you now, but
No,
one of
not at
them's
all.
more of like is motor, and the other one's like more of the like feeling on a nerve. Like,
Yeah.
because if it's like if you were a paraplegic, you can't move your body because it's a nerve.
Right.
It's 2 pieces of a nerve. So they think that both the parts are messed up when they only thought one piece was messed up. So
So you're
it's been a
going
problem.
back today for another MRI.
Yep. So we'll
They
find out.
suck, don't they?
Oh
MRI?
man, you're in this machine. It's like this close to your
Bang,
face, and
bang,
it
bang,
goes
bang,
off.
bang.
It's like so, yeah, pounding it with like a baseball bat. It's just like, yeah. So I have that to look forward to. But anyway, sorry, we went off on some crazy tangent
No,
here, but
no, but take like a CBD gummy or something before you go.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a smart
yeah,
idea.
yeah. Chill out in that thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to get back to you and your story. I know that you're obviously a huge advocate for breast cancer, and you were even a part of something that went at Amoeba Records, right, in Hollywood with
Oh, that was so
Dr.
fun. Yeah.
Funk, and yeah, that was you had that whole.
Yeah, so Christy Funk is she was not my surgeon.
Mhm,
She actually was not available, but I did go to her group,
mhm,
and one of her associates was my surgeon. But I met uh, Dr. Funk. She took over my case when my doctor left the practice, and she's wonderful. And she put out a book,
uh-huh.
about breast cancer awareness and things you can do to reduce your risk. And she had a book release party at Amoeba Records, which was fantastic. And
Sure.
I wrote a whole record, through the beginning of my journey, through the reconstruction process. It's called Curve.
Uh-huh.
And so I did some songs from that at Amoeba, and that's just the best record store on the planet. And they
Yeah.
just reopened.
I know that's so amazing because they've been in kind of this even pre-COVID, they were kind of in a
Yeah.
weird space with
Yeah.
being with location and the record industry, obviously where it is and everything else in between. But that's amazing you were able to play there. And I'm
Oh,
so happy that it's coming back.
me too. No, I should say there I have two favorites because there's also Music Millennium in Oregon,
Okay,
and
I've never
that's
been to
they're,
there.
they're kind of it's kind of their version of amoeba. It's a little smaller, but same like just independent spirit, and putting out the music that they want to put out, and just people that love music that work there and it's their passion, and they also
Sure.
have a stage. So I love playing those stores.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And a lot of like really, really big artists will do those like
Yeah.
in-store sessions, which I think are so fantastic. But yeah, it's awesome that people are still supporting the local record industry, which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's music, and musicians and artists are, I think, so much a bulk of the people that will go there, as well as the music fan.
Sure.
It's, you get a lot of creative, they're not just musicians or filmmakers or whatever. I mean, at least in the LA store, it's
Right,
just,
right.
you just a respect for the craft and of art.
Uh-huh.
And it's not, you know, when you are an artist, you have to do what you do. You don't have a choice. It's not
Uh-huh.
about the money.
Right.
You love what you do, and you know that about other artists. And it's, you want to support that.
I love that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you guys have you feel each other. It's like, okay, I know what you're on the same like almost wavelength. Like I
Yeah.
understand what you've been trying to do your whole life or what you've been working for.
Mhm.
I've personally been doing the same, and we're kind of in this journey like together simultaneously, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, your podcast is, I mean, I went back and I've been watching it. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I
And I
really
love that
appreciate that.
it's a husband and wife endeavor, and
Thank you.
that you
It's
guys
been
get
a bit difficult if you watch the earlier episodes, my wife and I are both in it together, but recently it's been difficult because of everything, the COVID situation. And we have a 4-year-old and he's here all the time or
yeah.
most of the time. And it's like, yeah, it's just been,
That's the pandemic though. I mean, this is the year that we've had, and I can't, this is the first interview that I've done that my children have not walked in on, or the cat hasn't jumped on the computer. Um
which is totally fine with me because I love those moments, to be honest. It's like,
yeah.
this is real life. This is
Yeah, no, we
happening.
talk long enough. I promised you, someone's going to come in and want a snack. It just happened.
I love it. I love it. I don't know. Like, so I'm just curious because you won this NBC's Star Tomorrow.
Hmm.
Was that like talk? I don't even know if you want to talk about that. Is that something that was a big part of your career? Did you enjoy it, or if not, we can just skip right over it.
uh, um, it was, it was an important part, of my career, in that it was so eye opening on so many levels.
Mhm.
It was at a point, what was that, 2006, I think.
I think
Um,
so too. So this is
yeah,
pre-Curve record and everything.
yeah. It was at a time where, television, record labels, everybody was moving towards the using the internet to sell, to interact. They were trying to like, all right, everybody's doing it. Let's
Mhm.
let's get in on it, and let's see if we can monetize it, and
Sure.
let's find the people that are already doing it, and let's see if we can
Jump
hop
on
on
there.
their
Yeah,
bandwagon,
well,
right?
right. And you were already doing it, obviously, with that first
Exactly.
record. Okay.
So I get this email that says, we would love to have you as part of this new show. It's NBC and David Foster. And it's going to be kind of like American Idol, but you get to do your own music. I was like,
Well, that's kind of cool.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So that's what got me interested in it. Um, and so I went, to the audition. And of course, the auditions are part of the show, as they
Sure.
are in all of these.
And they have to
Um,
give the sob story. I don't know how they did it in this one, but
yeah, no,
obviously,
it was, so mine was, we really like you, but we don't want your band. And your band
uh,
is right next to you.
of course.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and they're like, and they're like, so how do you feel about that? You know?
How do you feel about us kicking your band off, guys? And you're like, gals.
And oh, And this is after they'd already like interviewed how long have you known these people and how much I love
Sure.
them, you know. So, you know, there's so much manipulation, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And so it was not an easy experience. It was very stressful.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure I made some new fans through it, but I think that what ultimately it did for me is it took my existing fan base and it really, really rallied them.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I did not accept the prize.
Didn't you win it?
I won it.
And then you didn't. What was the prize? Like a deal or something?
It was a record deal. If
Okay.
yeah, that I and I'm not allowed to tell you what exactly it was,
Sure.
for you know things that I
Yeah.
saw. But
Got you.
let's just say that I would rather have stayed on my own. And
Really?
but I did.
Well,
And that started me like really, you know, I'd already been fan funding my records like way before Kickstarter. You know, I'd already
okay.
been doing that. So this
Oh, I
time
didn't realize
they
that. That's amazing.
yeah. So they really got behind me and you know, and then I made the next record with them and it I wasn't ready to give up everything that I'd
Hmm.
worked for and
Sure.
hand over, you know, my body of work and not, you know, to a company that may never do anything with it and then I can never, you know, that's my legacy, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. They could just take it and go, "Oh, well, you had this buzz for a minute, but what happened, they can
Yeah,
always
that
just
was,
shelve
you know,
you. They can do whatever they want at
right. So I
some point
wanted
in
to keep,
time."
that was, so that was like the big, and the other thing was that I was ready. I was just about to get, I had been engaged and
Okay.
was about to get married and I knew I wanted to start a family. And contractually, there were things that would have not allowed me to
Right.
start a family right away.
Makes sense.
So, and that was another thing. I was just like, I'm too old for this, you know. I just, you know, like too old
But
for
you're
this.
like, "Well, I won." I mean, isn't that at the end of the day, you're like, "I won." Okay. Well,
I won. I won.
yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty
But
rad, right?
yeah, I mean, there was some lovely people involved. I made some friends through the show. It wasn't all bad, you know,
Sure.
but it just wasn't. It wasn't. At the end of the day, it just the prize was not for me.
Right.
So yeah, so that was like just another one of those. There were events, there were things that happened, like you know, going on tour with the Bacon Brothers, Start Tomorrow. There was a show that I did with Janie Lane from Warrant. Um,
Okay.
you know, around 2005, um, that also like really built up my fan base because he did a show on KLOS, which had the
Yeah.
Mark and Brian show. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
They're
it's like
huge. They're
syndicated.
still a huge station, right? I
They're
mean, in
huge.
LA.
And the Mark and Brian show is syndicated just all over the US. And
Hmm.
after I did the show with Janie, I was playing keyboards for him and singing backup. They invited me on to do my own interview and play live with my
Wow.
own
That's
song.
awesome.
Amazing. And that just really also gave me a huge boost.
Hmm.
So, yeah, there are these things and these catalysts that put, you know,
Little
put
milestones, kind of.
motion and, you know, lift you
Yeah.
up. And those were definitely some of them. But I just kept going and kept building that fan base and kept opening up for other major artists. And, you know, when I'm at a civic center, you know, playing for thousands of people as an opening act, I just get up there for half an hour. But I owned all my own records and I would
Hmm.
go sit out in the lobby and sign records until the last person was standing in line and chatting with everybody. And I've always just loved connecting with people. And I love those conversations and I love getting to know people and getting to know the locals in the areas that I'm touring and exploring. It's music is just the key to my adventure. It's all about adventure and
Yeah.
learning and growing and you know, in order to write music, you have to constantly um, put new stuff in your life. You know, you have to. You're not just inspired sitting in a room by yourself. You got to get out. You
Hmm.
know, meet people, get into nature. You know, read books, expose yourself, and I just I love that part. I love the adventure.
I love that because this is going to go into my next question here for you because you put out. I mean, the curve was kind of. you get signed to a different label at that point. You
Yeah.
go through all of this, breast cancer, everything else. And like you just said, it's all about touring, getting in front of people, meeting your fans, signing records in the lobby.
Mhm.
Now, where were you at when this whole coronavirus hit? Were you like
Oh,
you're so
yeah,
used
no.
to this album tour.
Yep.
You have this frame of mind or not frame of mind, but like really like that's what you've been doing,
Yeah.
right? And then now we're all stuck inside. Were you on tour when this started? And how does that kind of roll into this new record and then in the new songs that you got
Okay.
putting
All right.
out?
Well, I was planning a tour. I
Okay.
was planning a tour because in 2019, towards the end, it had taken me 2 years to get the material together for this one because the label was very like particular about
Mm-hmm.
songs, and we have we have to mutually agree on what's going on the record. So even if I wanted a song, they have to agree with me.
Well,
If they
sure,
want a
yeah.
song,
That's
I have
kind
to
of
agree
how
with
it
them.
is, right? They
Yeah.
can you present them with here's 15 songs or 20 songs, and then they're
Mhm.
gonna go, we like these 10 for the record, or
Exactly. Right.
yeah, sure, okay.
So my executive producer is Kirk Passage, who founded the label with his son Connor. I was the first artist on the record with Curve, on the
Wow.
label with Curve. Yeah, and that's a good story too. I'll tell you. Um, but so this was a long time in the making, and I had finally, after going trying to get different producers and dealing with budget constraints and schedule issues, I finally get this dream band together, and
Hmm.
I have like the best rhythm section ever in the world to produce it. Okay, I've got Sean Hurley and Vic and Drizzo, and you've heard Sean Hurley. He was the bass player for Vertical Horizon, also a songwriter.
Okay.
The writer on Everything You Want, that song.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and he had been working with Alanis Morissette and Casey Musgraves and Courtney
Wow.
Lay and John Mayer. And basically, I was told by a producer, if you can get Sean Hurley on your record, doesn't matter who produces it, it's going to be great. So I'm like,
Sure.
okay, then I'm just going to get Sean Hurley to produce my record.
Yeah,
So
that'll help.
yeah. And his partner is Vic and Drizzo, just amazing drummer. Same thing, Chris Cornell and Lizzo and
Uh-huh.
Alanis, and just incredible. And they brought in Dave Levita to play guitar, Lana Del Rey and
Oh,
Sheryl
really?
Crow,
Oh, wow.
and Mike Farrell from Alanis's band, who
Uh-huh.
turns out was my very first keyboard player. Mike Farrell from when I first started. And they're like, we should bring in Mike Farrell. I'm like, Mike Farrell? And they're like, do you know what he's been up to? I'm like, no. It was just, that was great.
That's
So I got
crazy.
this amazing band together. We go into the studio at Sage and Sound in 2019, recorded the tracks we recorded the music for 8 tracks. I hadn't done my vocals yet because I was sick at the time. I'd been touring constantly, and as
Hmm.
always, you get on a plane and you catch whatever is going
Yeah.
around the plane, especially when
Sure.
you're exhausted. So I couldn't do my vocals at that point, and I was going to start doing them or after the holidays, in
Okay.
2020. So around the time that I finally get Zach Darling, who was going to produce the vocals for me, who's Dave Darling, my first producer. It's his nephew,
Oh,
Zach.
wow. Full
Yeah,
circle again.
full
Wow, that's
circle. So
cool.
Zach's producing my vocals in my home studio or his home studio. And I'm also working with Ross Hogarth on Broken But Beloved, which is probably the single that you heard about.
Yes.
And Ross is phenomenal. He's a Grammy award winning, producer and engineer, and it was a bucket list thing for me too to be able to work with him. So here I've got all this stuff going on, and then we start hearing this stuff about COVID. But I had also been traveling again, touring, and I got sick
Uh-oh.
again. And this time it had affected my lungs so bad. I go to a pulmonary specialist, and he's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You got some weird virus. And, I tested you for mono, I tested you for this and that. He's like, I don't know what this is, but here's a home nebulizer, here's all this
Oh,
stuff. They put me on
wow.
steroids, all this stuff. Took me forever to get better. And then my doctor got it. And then, we start hearing more and more about this virus that's going around, but everyone's like, oh no, it didn't come to the US until whatever it was, March or whatever.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know about this. Um, Finally, I'm better towards the end of March. I start recording the vocals. The world shuts down. I still have more tracks to finish. So we're doing overdubs and stuff. I'm sending stuff to Sean's sending stuff to Dave and to Vic, and we're like putting things around home studios. Ross is working with Greg Saran from the Goo Goo Dolls from his home studio.
Oh, wow.
I got Brian McLeod from Tuesday Night Music Club playing some. Here I am. I got the best people ever. I've always believed that you surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
And in this case, like I really leveled up here.
Sure.
And had Lauren Gold playing on Broken But Beloved. He was the keyboard player for The Who. And then Michael Bacon from the Bacon Brothers. He did cello for me.
Oh, awesome.
So literally, like everybody's contributing from their home studios and passing these tracks around. And
That's awesome.
Zach and I can no longer be in the same room. So he's like, I'll record something at home. My husband's engineering it for me. We send it to Zach. Zach gives me direction. I go back and do it again. And it was just this very long, arduous process. But, it kept my mind off, something that was going on this whole time, which I haven't expressed to you yet. And that is my mother was dying.
Oh my gosh.
For the last, it was for 5 years, she had dementia. She had Lewy body disease, which is what Robin Williams had.
Oh, okay.
Very just cruel, cruel form of dementia because you have it. It's like you're trapped inside a brain that
Oh,
won't work for you.
wow.
And she also had posterior cortical atrophy, which is a very rare form of Alzheimer's, where it starts in the back of the brain instead of the front, and she went blind. Not because her eyes didn't work, but because the brain couldn't process the images. So slowly, she was losing all of her senses. She couldn't see, she couldn't speak, she couldn't hear. I mean, it was just this. Plus, she was hallucinating and thinking she was being attacked and all this stuff.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I'm taking care of my mom, going back and forth from Los Angeles to Palm Desert to take care of her. My dad had a caretaker to help him.
Mhm.
But this is my mom. I mean, this is my best friend.
Sure.
So I'm homeschooling my kids because I took them out before the world closed down because
So did we.
I knew this was coming. I'd already been sick, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
no, you
That's
guys
interesting
get out of
because we
school.
did the same thing. We pulled our older child,
Yeah,
our other kid out of school before it
before it
all
closed,
shut
right? I'm
right
like,
before.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, like months, like, yeah, a couple
yeah,
months prior.
yeah. I think I did a month before, and I just so I'm teaching them. I'm going back and forth to Palm Desert. Then I'll like drop everything and go into the studio and record. And it was so interesting. I mean, I've never been so passionate about a body of work than I am about this new record. There were songs on there that were so freaking important to me.
Hmm.
Um, Look, every song that I write is a child, is a creative child, that it's created from nothing, it's birthed and you put it out and it's gonna grow up on its own and be mothered and fathered by other people who,
Sure.
bring it into their lives. But there were certain things about this record and about these songs that I fought for,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted them out there, and I fought to make it the way I wanted to make it. And ultimately, I am so grateful to Blue Elan Records for letting me put this record out, do it the way I wanted to do it, without being censored, without being silenced. Like, no, you
Hmm.
believe in this, you go do it. Go do it.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and so I am forever indebted to them for letting me do this. So yeah, it was just a really, really tough time, a really tough year. My mom passed away on May 26th.
I'm sorry. That's
Yeah, coming up on a year now, and it's just so weird because it's a year and like
was
hasn't
I
changed
don't
that
know if
much.
you feel comfortable answering this question, but I'm just curious. Like, was it a situation because COVID had been a thing at this point that they wouldn't let like you or your father like around the
Okay,
situation or
well, no, she was home the entire time,
oh, okay.
and I broke quarantine. I mean,
Hmm.
like I went on. I mean, I remember we were so scared, like, especially at the beginning, to be around anybody. And I brought like the drop
Yeah.
cloth suits and the
Sure,
masks
like
and
full
the
hazmat, like
totally.
nobody know. Yeah.
And I went and I was so afraid that I would scare her because she was already couldn't see well and her scent, but
Yeah, she's like,
I
"Who's this, like,
remember
hazmat person coming in at
she's in a
me?"
wheelchair, and I have the nurse wheel her into the garage with the garage open so there was fresh air. And
Uh-huh.
I'm in hazmat, and I visited her on her birthday, which is April 15th, and brought her an In-N-Out burger, her favorite,
That's awesome.
cut it into teeny tiny pieces because she was having a hard time swallowing.
Mhm.
And I brought the kids and my husband Chip, and we all sat in the garage. And I just, oh my god, I mean, like these like last moments that I had with my mom are like, you know just marred by this pandemic.
Mhm.
And then on did the same thing, Mother's Day, got down there. And then, you know, when I knew she was in hospice and I knew this was the end, I'm like,
Mhm.
screw it. I went down there, took
Yeah,
time off, and I
I
just
would too.
crawled in bed with her
Yeah.
and laid with her, talked to her, held her. And the thing is, remember I told you, like, her awareness was intact. She knew there was a pandemic. She knew something was wrong and she was afraid. She didn't want me to get sick. And she's like, you shouldn't be here. You can't be here. I
Oh,
don't, this is
okay.
dangerous. And I'm like, no, no,
Yeah,
you know
I would
I
do the
remember I
same
remember
thing.
a friend saying to me, she's my mom's best friend, and she's like, your mom's not dying to kill you, you know go be with her.
Right.
And I did, and it was a very, very special time, and it was an honor to be with her,
Uh-huh.
to hold her as she took her last breath, to be there, and to witness something that I always believed in, which is that the soul is just in a container. These are just our containers,
Sure.
I like my container. I'm happy, it
Uh-huh.
gives me my voice. It gives me, this tool to be able to express myself and what my spirit has to say and share with the world.
Mhm.
Um, and I knew, when she passed, and to look at that container and go, okay, mama, that container no longer served her. And I know she's in a better place. I still feel her around me. Since the day she has passed, she's left me feathers, and like literally, I'll be walking in a feather. We'll just.
Wow.
And when we moved here, when we came to look at this house that I'm living in now, there was a feather on the doormat right in front of the door.
Whoa. Talk
Yeah,
about a
yeah,
sign. That's so amazing. And
you
I'm
know,
so happy that you're able to have those moments with her, because I mean, you hear so many stories recently, about family members being locked in in these
yeah.
hospitals, and
And they can't.
glass, and
Yeah,
you can't get in. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'd kick that door down and, like, you put me in handcuffs. I'm still running up those stairs,
yeah,
regardless of a pandemic or whatever. Because I mean, I love it's just
yeah.
I really feel for you.
Our parents bring us into this world, and it's an honor for us to lead them out,
Hmm.
to be there. So, yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous, tremendous loss. All of that, you know, considering that all of the vocals were basically recorded during a pandemic, all of that, you know, is infused into the music,
Hmm.
and you write a song and it means something to you on the day you wrote it.
Right.
And as time goes by and as you sing it again and again and again in different circumstances, it takes on new meaning,
Hmm.
and it continues to. So I just, knowing where these songs came from, I know that it will continue to change for me.
I love that.
And yeah.
And well, I'm so happy that you were able to fight for this record and get everything that you wanted on it, especially in this time, and what you wanted to express at this time. And
Mhm.
that's just it's amazing that the label is able to work with you and just say, you know what, we believe in you. Put it out. I love the songs that I have heard. I can't wait to. Is the rest of the record coming out? Oh, you said on
Yeah,
September
the
or
rest of
on
it.
October, on April 23rd.
Yeah, but you know what, Adam, I'll send you the whole record. If you don't have, if you only have the singles, I'll send you the whole record.
Well, thank you. I
That's it.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
would love to hear it. Like I said, yeah, now I remember it's on my son's 5th birthday. We talked about this in the beginning. But thank you so much for doing this. And this has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you for being so vulnerable and telling me and talking to us about all of this stuff that has happened to you throughout the course of your career. I really appreciate it. I want you
Thanks.
to.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what where art comes from. It comes. Well, for me at least, it comes from the most vulnerable, deepest part. That's what we do when we create. You don't
Mhm.
create from your skin.
Sure.
You create from in here. So
I love that. I have one more thought question for you
yeah,
before I let you go today, Cindy. And I appreciate the amount of time you hung and spent with me. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
just do it.
Let's do
And
it.
keep doing it, and know that you know we learn also from what doesn't work. So sometimes you have to write song A, B, C, and D to get to the next one that's gonna click. And also don't edit yourself right away when you're writing. Like you have to kind of work through the cobwebs, and in order to work through that, you have to basically write everything. Um, there is a great book out there called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
And she recommends that you do something called morning pages. So in the morning you wake up and you just write stream of consciousness. You don't edit yourself. You just keep writing because that kind of breaks through, you know, and gets rid of the, as we said, the cobwebs, and then you get to the nuggets, and you might go back and look at those stream of consciousness, entries that you did in your morning pages and go, oh my God, there's a lyric. I'm going to take that. Now I'm going to take that and expand.
Mm-hmm.
And just always have you know, your iPhone recorder, a sketch pad. I like things that aren't through technology. I like picking up a pencil or a pen and writing because that uses a different part of your brain.
Yes.
Um, and I just keep like write, paint, whatever you need to do. You have to exercise that creative muscle. Use it or lose it.
Bringing it backward.